This is the mid-season report card. I'm Jamie and I'm joined by Stephen and Melly.
What's happening?
Not an awful lot. Martin, Melly, how are we getting on?
All good, all good.
It's currently World Cup time, so
Yep,
there's
still going on.
so there's no Celtic, but we thought we could use this opportunity to judge the Celtic players.
To fill.
Yeah,
is what we're
aye,
doing
to
here.
fill a wee bit.
Fill.
No,
Hey,
this...
What do you want from us? It's a World Cup. It's still going on. We're in here filling and giving
Filling
you
the Celtic players.
red hot Celtic content.
Well, we're grafting, Stephen. That's what we're doing. So, patrons, you might remember that we had a tier list at the beginning of the season where we ranked the current Celtic squad and where we thought they were going to end up. We had elite players, we had essential players, we had players that we thought can contribute, we had players in last chance saloon, and we had good night, sweet prince for all the players that we thought were going to Melly kisses the sky, who we thought were going to disappear over the summer. And we're going to grade, we're going to look back and compare how the players have performed thus far compared to how we thought they were going to do at the beginning of the season. And we've got some other categories, some other tiers to think about. So the tiers are still elite. That is top of the class.
Yeah,
no better.
Most of them are self-explanatory, but if you didn't catch the first one of these we did, elite is, well, it not only does it's what it says in the tin, it's fairly self-explanatory, but we can't have any more than 3 or 4 of 4 or 5 maximum of those. We can't go throwing everybody into elite willy-nilly because to quote, it's a quote I used on the last time we did this, Jose Mourinho once said that, it was put to him that he was playing against Man United, I think with Chelsea, and it was put to him that Man United are missing 12, 13 key players, and he said you don't get 13 key players, you get 3 key players or whatever the case may be. So we can't just go throwing half the squad into elite. As much as we love them, it would sully the whole thing.
Yeah, it would make the whole thing a mockery, and this is very serious. The next tier down is essential. That melee is players who are essential to the way Ange wants to play. In this context, players who have been essential for Ange thus far.
Yeah, there'll be a few players in that bracket that will maybe move up. There'll be a few players that move down, but that's the sort of one you're going, look, if he's fit, he usually plays, isn't it? It's that sort of guy.
Down from that, we have the contributing tier. Players who are putting a shift in, players who are earning their corn or maybe on the verge of maybe not earning their corn. Next from that is last chance saloon.
Yep.
Now, it's quite interesting because what might happen in this one is, and this is where I think the pattern's going to come from, players are moving up and down. So there are players who are, perhaps there are players on the list that are shifting out of last chance saloon and players who are moving into last chance saloon, and there's going to be a bit of mishmash and players moving all over the tiers. So that's the tier list. There's no good night sweet prince thus far. We're not going to throw anyone out mid-season, are we? Although we could say, some of those guys who find themselves in last chance saloon might not be coming back. Might not be coming back in the door. I think at this point, though, it would be worthwhile just paying some respects, having a minute to the good night sweet princes of the beginning of the season. Some illustrious names in there, Stephen. Anyone that you're missing? Anyone that you think we were too harsh on? Anyone that you want to see come back? Anyone where you thought actually, and this is another thing we can do in this podcast, figure out where we were wrong.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to be the key element here. You've already said that's where the patter, that's where the humour's going to lie. If we're here to establish just how right and or wrong we were about these players in these lists. However, the Good Night Sweet Prince tier, from memory, I think it was populated by guys like Bolingoli, Albion Ageti, Jonathan Afalabi, and things
Liam
like that.
Scales,
Liam Scales,
Julian,
Liam Shaw. So I don't think we were wrong about any of those. I'm open to be corrected about.
I don't think any of them are still at the club.
No, I think we were pretty spot on about that. I think there'll be a bit of movement in other tiers because we were probably a little bit eager with some of them, but I think we were pretty spot on about the good night sweet princes. They have all said good night, I think.
Yeah. Depending on how good our housekeeping is, our illustrious editor would have put up the little graphic with how everyone got on last year. However, we didn't keep it, and it would be unfair to expect him to keep it. So as we go through the names, I'm just going to helpfully remind the watchers, the listeners, and you too, because you won't remember either, where each player got last season. And how are we going to do it? Well, we're going to just go through the names at random. So I'll run down the Celtic squad completely at random, remind you, the listeners and the watchers, where they featured last year, and we will grade them thus far.
at the start of the season, you mean, rather than last year? So
Sorry, I keep saying last year at the start of the season, how they got on at the start of the season and how they're doing so far.
Just one more point as well. Some players weren't at the club at the time, so we need to bring in new players, won't we? Jota hadn't signed, Moritz Jens, Haksabanovic, Abelgard and Moy, I think.
Yeah, first time judging for them, first time getting judged for them, but the first man up to be judged, Scott Bain, and we had to. You're laughing. There you go. You're laughing already. We have him as can contribute at the beginning of the season.
Right. Okay. So can contribute. I think that was based on he might play here and there. Joe Hart's a little bit older now. He might play, but he hasn't contributed at all, has he? He hasn't. I don't think he's been on the bench for quite some time from memory. That Seagrass is in. So what have we got here then? We've got can contribute. What's the tier down from that? Last chance to win.
I mean, you could even kick him into Good Night Sweet Prince if you wanted.
Aye, to be honest, I would go with Good Night Sweet Prince, because what would Last Chance Saloon suggest? What would Scott Bain have to do now to prove his worth to the Celtic team? I'm not in any rush to get rid of him. I don't think any of us are particularly bothered by a third choice keeper just rattling around the place. Yeah. But for the purposes of this, for the squad assessment here, he's Good Night Sweet Prince for me.
Well, I just want to point out, hilariously, just not 30 seconds ago, we sat down and go, it'd be a bit unfair to put anyone in Good Night Sweet Prince mid-season, but we'll see how it pans out. First name on the team sheet, Scott Brown. Scott Bain, you're done.
This is quite a wee difficult one, because while we might put him in Good Night Sweet Prince, it's likely he's not going to go, because you need a third choice keeper, don't you? And the fact that he's going to be there, he doesn't take up I think he's still got a year left in his contract come the end of this season. So Good Night Sweet Prince, but he'll still be here, Sweet Prince.
So in this instance, it's Good Night Sweet Prince. We didn't think we would be doing that, but we've kind of washed our hands of Scott Bain, and I tend to agree. I think so far, would you be sad about losing him? Would you miss him? We do need a third choice keeper, but we've got Toby Aloyemi, is that how you pronounce his surname at the club? So Good Night Sweet Prince for Scott Bain. So there we go, right off the bat.
So the axe has swung already.
Ideguchi is the next name, but I didn't pick them, completely random.
Random generator is feeling harsh. It chose violence today.
Ideguchi, Martin Melly, he was in Last Chance Saloon at the beginning of the season, which is unbelievable to think, because that was signed last January.
Yep.
So from January to the beginning of the season, he found himself in Last Chance Saloon. We're now nearly a full year on. I see nothing but Good Night Sweet Prince.
Yeah, we're not going to use Good Night Sweet Prince, but that's 2 out of 2 for us, isn't it? So I think he has to go in there for him to come in January, then us to get to the summer, bring in 2 central midfielders, him to, I don't think he's played a single minute of competitive football. It's just not worked out for him. I don't think there's any harm in that. You're not going to get all transfers 100% right, and looks like Ideguchi's one of them. With
a heavy heart, I have to agree. I wanted Ideguchi to do well, but the fact of the matter is, not only has he not contributed a thing to Celtic, I can't even admit, we don't even have the token Scott Allen clause where you would think, he played that cracking pass once. I don't think he's done a single thing of note for Celtic at all. Not all of it's his fault, because he's been injured a lot and has found himself just falling down the pecking order. As the months go on, it just seems somebody else is in ahead of him. So no, I think it's time. I think it's time for him to go. Good night, Sweet Prince.
Good night, Sweet Prince. There's 2 demotions so far. 0 promotions.
So we were wrong about 2 players out of 2 so far.
2 out of 2.
Excellent.
We were completely wrong. It might be 3 out of 3, because next up, Matt O'Reilly, who was essential last year. Now, I know, Melly, that noise. I think it's going to be very difficult not to grade him so far and increase that grade. I think he's going to have to get a promotion. I think Matt O'Reilly has firmly established himself, Stephen, as one of the elite players of this squad.
Is he one of the 3 or 4 that we simply can't play without?
Yes, now he is. And I'll tell you why I think he is, because he was verging on it before with how good he was, especially some of these Champions League performances. But since he's been asked to drop back one and do the Callum McGregor role, which he's taken in his stride, don't need Callum McGregor anymore.
That's actually fair enough. That's a very good case being put forward there. I think I could see a way to promoting him into elite here, because he has been fantastic this season, and I've said quite a lot about how he deserves a lot of credit for just going about that role, that extremely important role he's been asked to fill in for. I think he is. I think Matt O'Reilly is elite.
Yeah, I'm all on board that as well. I think he's elite. I think judging by maybe 4 or 5 at most elite players, I'm trying to think. There's definitely one who'll be dropping out for me, and then maybe 1 or 2 others switching places. But I think if I'm looking at the players, the ones that you really want to pick, 4 or 5, Matt O'Reilly's in there for me. He's just coming into from January onwards and coming in at the start of this season. Tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And I can't imagine Celtic without him now.
Well, the next player that is up is a player we didn't rate in the summer, and that's Haksabanovic. He is up, didn't get rated in the summer, so free reign, Martin Melly. You've got the floor. State your case for Haksabanovic.
Oh, I think straight into essential. I think he can contribute. He's more than contributed, and I think come the end of the season, he will be an essential, maybe bordering on elite if he keeps it up. So I'm saying definite essential right now.
I agree with all of that. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
I think he's contributing, but I don't think he's essential to the way Ange wants to play. I don't think he's become an essential player for this team. I mean, essential as we kind of described as if he's fit, he plays. I don't think he's essential here.
I know what you mean. I think part of this is probably projecting into like, if we were to sit down and fill yet again at the end of the season.
Because at the beginning of the season we were looking at how we think these players are going to be. Now we're looking back.
Looking back. That places the new signings in a bit of a unenviable position in that we can't really judge all that much for a lot of them because they haven't played a huge amount. Haksabanovic has, in fairness. Looking back, I don't think he is elite. I don't think he's elite. It's probably essential to me.
You think so?
If we establish essential as like the way Ange wants to play, the way that if we're turning up to the stadium, if we're on the way to the stadium and you look down, you see that name on the team sheet and it gives you that wee buzz, that wee tingly feeling.
But let me ask you this though. Sorry to interrupt your buzz and your tingly feeling, right? But let me ask you this.
Ruined.
If Jota, Maeda and Abada are all fit, does Hackers play?
Oh, aye.
Yeah, for me, that's
every time for me.
You think so?
Even if
that for you, but for Ange,
I think so as well. Yeah, okay. And even then, he can still play in that sort of midfield role as well. So I think, Ange 9 times out of 10 will find a place for Haksabanovic because he is essential.
Overruled. Then he finds himself. Haksabanovic finds himself in the essential category.
Okay. Might be a quite busy category that one.
Well, it could be, but people might drop out of it because we have next up Georgios Yakimakis, who last time we thought was essential.
I think he stays there because, like you said, when he plays, he scores, and it's him or Kyogo, isn't it? So he's essential. If Kyogo doesn't play, he does. I can contribute. He's more than contributing for me. He's banging in the goals along with Kyogo. And like Ange says it all the time, I don't have a first team. I have different players for different needs, Stephen. So I'm sticking with him with essential because I think the two of them could bag 20 goals each.
What is it? Gareth Southgate has been putting it during the World Cup. He calls his subs finishers rather than I know. So as opposed to starters, he's also got finishers, but doesn't class them as subs because the team that finishes the game is every bit as important as the one that starts it. So Kyogo and Yakimakis are in that kind of similar boat where they both play quite a lot and they both kind of interchange. No movement for me. No movement. I think he's essential.
Well,
bear in mind as well, just
hey,
I'm sure I might have had to talk you down from putting him in elite, or we had to.
Why are you bringing up old shit?
Because
see this podcast we're recording, which is specifically about old shit. Do not reference that if it makes us look bad.
See if you're going to be like, I remember when I told you, and I've turned out to be right. I don't want any of that. Okay, it's not what it's about. It's not about settling old scores.
If you'd let me finish,
right? Okay.
I was about to say, and I was almost on board with you, but just because can't have the 2 strikers if we only play one in there. We were nearly having him in elite because he is so good, and has much changed since then because he's not done much wrong since then.
Okay, fine, no demotion, no promotion.
That's because he misses penalties.
But Yakimakis, no, he's essential. But I just again, I'm like, if everyone's fit, does he play? Is he? He's contributed. Has he done as well as I thought? But he is essential because he's scored quite a lot of goals for us when he's played. So that's it. Next up, Greg Taylor. Now, no spoilers, right? Okay, maybe spoilers, but at the end of the season live show, our inaugural end of the season live show last year, we handed out, if you weren't there, you missed a fantastic night, we might do it again. We handed out the Tony Ralston Award for Unexpected Excellence. And that first ever award went to Tony Ralston. I would...
Fix,
right. I don't know how you get that award off Greg Taylor this season. I do not know how you take that award. You'd have to clutch it from my cold dead hands before you give it to anyone else.
See, is it unexpected with Greg anymore? Because he was great from January onwards.
Well, don't ruin our award. But we've got so it's the question is Greg Taylor an elite member of this squad now, or does he remain essential but at the top of the essential bracket?
So he's in essential. He was in essential when we did this in August.
Correct.
Right, okay. That was pretty decent of us. I think that was a pretty decent shout in there. I think
it's almost like we've been backing Greg Taylor for a very long time when others haven't.
Strong case for me for him to be elite, because if you're talking about, as we sit here, this is the mid-season report card, quite literally. If you're talking about potential Player of the Year candidates here, if there are only 3 or 4 of those in the squad, Greg Taylor's name is in there. Greg Taylor's name is in with a shout. He might not get it. He might not fully. It's very difficult to give a Player of the Year award to a left back, kind of unfashionable left back, isn't it? But as a
who else? You're
I know,
right. I didn't even think about that.
He's 100% in the conversation for it, regardless of what anyone thinks of him. He is. I don't think it's completely ridiculous to give him an early shout for Player of the Year as it stands here in November.
Stephen, don't forget, players last season that get pushed in for Player of the Year started doing well in March, and then like Calvin Bassey, he's amazing.
Unbelievable.
He has to really up it around March time to get into that bracket, doesn't he?
Greg Taylor's coming up for a full year of excellence, isn't he? It was about January time he really kicked on.
I'm a bit torn on this because I think Celtic are better with Greg Taylor in the team. They always look better, but at the same time, Bernabe comes in, and is there that much of a drop? Greg Taylor is better, he is that, but do Celtic still tick without Greg Taylor? I think so.
So you think he's just contributing?
I think he's in the last guy between essential and elite, that first guy. So if somebody drops out, he's first to go up.
Oh, yeah, so top of the essential class.
Yeah.
The thing is, with the elite group here, we are talking about the players who you can't imagine Celtic playing without or anything like that. But it would take something extraordinary for one of these players to come out and for Celtic to completely collapse in domestic football. And then,
I've got a few in my sights.
Yeah, right.
A few that have not been up to scratch this season.
Anyone we put in that is always going to have we could play someone else there and still probably get results there. So I don't think Bernabe, as much as he is a factor, I don't think it's strong enough to sort of work against Greg Taylor. For me, he's elite.
You know what? I'm going to put him in elite, right? For a couple of reasons. One, I love the guy. Greg, I love you. You know it, right? Secondly, I think just for we're going to see more players drop out, and I can't really think of anyone else apart from Greg Taylor until we start the debate who's going to move in. So Greg Taylor, you're going into the elite. You've been elite.
O'Reilly's already in.
So okay, don't correct me as I'm writing things down. Okay, right. So Greg Taylor is elite, and that's good enough. I know it's controversial, and I know he's in there by the skin of his teeth. He is in there by the very skin of his teeth. Like, don't let us down, Greg. You've done well so far. Keep it up.
We've bestowed the greatest honour of all on you this season.
Well,
Greg
it's not
Taylor.
the end of the season, right enough. This is only mid-season. So next up, Anthony Ralston was under the can contribute banner, and I believe mid-table contributing is where he stays, Stephen.
Well, he was in the can contribute, I think purely because when we did this, we foresaw that Juranovic was going to play the bulk of the games, and he would probably get even better than he has been the previous season. I think that was the logic behind putting Ralston where he ended up. However, I don't think any of that has panned out. I don't think Juranovic has been as good as we expected him to be. I don't think he has been as firmly established as the first choice. By and large, probably first choice, but I don't think there's that much in it. I don't think it's been a huge shock to see Ralston play as much football as he has this season. So I don't think I'm going to kind of pull the rug out of that a wee bit. I don't think Juranovic does keep Ralston down when it comes to assessing these things. I would have Ralston as what we've got essential, and then the next one below that is just contributing.
The names aren't very buzzwordy, but we just want to make it clear. Congratulations, Anthony, you're contributing.
I know.
It doesn't really sound. Congratulations, Greg Taylor, you're elite. Congratulations, Anthony Ralston, you are contributing.
It's harsh to put Taylor two brackets above Ralston.
Well done, Ralston, you exist. Is basically what we're saying.
Attaboy. It's
yeah.
a most improved player award. Oh, thanks.
It's an attendance award.
It's a participation trophy. Is that what they get in American sports and all that now? I tried to build up the case there, but I don't think he does move any for me. I don't think he does. I think he's been in and he has performed really well when he's come in, but does that get you into essential material? Probably not. It seems dead harsh. Because I've been really impressed with him this season, but I think it is still just basically contributing. He comes in, does well, and I don't mean for this, and I don't think anyone should take that as that we're sort of doing down the contributions of these guys coming in. And
they're contributing to a very good team.
Exactly. So I think, sadly, I tried to make the case, but it's a non-mover for me.
Yeah, I'm the same as Stephen. Well, no, I love Ralston, but I just you can't. I don't think he's the other one. He's probably the one that's on the top end of can contribute or contributing. So I just don't think you can put many higher. But again, as you said, he's contributing in a very good way. So fair play to the guy.
Don't be downhearted, Tony. Keep up the tackling. You know, keep plugging away.
Pipe dreams are good in a way. Benjamin Siegrist, he was a can contribute. I've got to say,
it's difficult for keepers.
It's difficult for keepers, isn't it? It's difficult for keepers mainly because we've got four really, right? But one's not listed as a first team player, so we've got three really. You're really only ever going to see two.
Yep.
Joe Hart plays so well that he's always in anyway. When he's no in, it seems Benjamin Siegrist is leapt over Scott Bain to become second choice. So it's left Scott Bain with really nowhere else to go, and he's still a young keeper and he probably wants to play some football. Siegrist has just joined, but he can't be in last chance saloon, can he?
Nah, I think can contribute in this instance is if Joe Hart were to get injured, then yes, it would be Siegrist that comes in first. I just imagine Neil Lennon was Celtic manager doing this list, and he had his three goalkeepers in elite, didn't he? Because mind he didn't have three of them.
No, he had them all in last chance. He didn't say because he didn't say I've got three first choice keepers. He says I've got three third choice keepers.
So I think Siegrist can contribute, and I think he will contribute. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on in the semi-final, if he keeps his place for the League Cup, or if we get to the final and it is against Rangers, if the two go through, if he held faith with him then. So I think can contribute, because if anything happened to Joe Hart, he'd be first in, no doubt.
Dead easy. I can contribute. If contributing is just playing the odd game here and there, then Siegrist can and will do it. So they cannot possibly put him in last chance saloon, and it doesn't fit in any other category. Dead easy.
Contributing.
Yes.
Next up, Bernabe.
Oh, I'd say contributing. I think he's been okay, a lot to learn, still a lot to learn, and the form of Greg Taylor means he doesn't play as much, but I also think his own form means he doesn't play as much. Sometimes you can see, I can completely understand why we signed you, and other times you see, I completely understand why you're at Celtic and not another team. So I think a lot to learn. I think he has been good, but he has had many not as many bad games as good games, but I think he is contributing.
Well, I think he's contributing, Stephen, but purely on the age of the fact of his age. Because he's a young player. See if he was 25, 26, a wee bit older, I'd probably say the guy's maybe in last chance saloon, because he's came here for big money. He's not managed to knock Greg Taylor off his perch. He has had some okay games. He's shown it in glimpses. So I think by virtue of the fact that he's still so young means that he is contributing in a way, but has he given his value for money? Maybe it was a £4 million?
Yeah.
He is up against an elite player, as we say.
Yeah. No, he hasn't, but it's early days. I think it is basically just a contributing, or can contribute, will contribute in the future, Bernabe. I think it's be very harsh to say anything less of him at this point. I think every point that's been made so far about him is right. I think he's come in and done quite well. He's had one or two nightmares in there as well, but that's to be expected. I think he's going to get better and better as he goes, but held back by Greg Taylor's form. So, he's a contributor. He's a contributor, can contribute, and no doubt will in the future.
Carl Starfelt. A cause for lots of debate. Last season, some people thought he was rubbish. Some people thought he was great. I know, Stephen, you're a fan of Karl Starfelt. He's got some competition now in the shape of Moritz Jens. We've just signed a player whose name escapes me. Kobayashi, another centre half coming in. So there's lots of competition coming in for Starfelt in the future. We will get to Moritz Jens, obviously, on the player list. We're not going to do Kobayashi. Not seen him yet. Can't rate him. So I think there was no doubt that we were all kind of fans of Jens. We said he was essential to Ange's system last Starfelt was essential to Ange's system at the beginning of the season. We thought he would be. He's not played much though, and this is something we need to look at because we're grading people on their contribution thus far. Now it's not our fault they've been injured. So can you say he's been essential if he's not played that much?
No, it's a difficult one. I think come the end of the season he might be back up in essential, but I'd put him in contributing just now. I think he is a good player. I think that is our main partnership. Be interesting to see how Kobayashi comes in, if he's maybe looking towards next season. But I think the second half of the season, from what I've seen of Jens, alright, but I think Starfelt will get the place back. So I would put him in contributing. I keep changing how I say that word, but I think I'll stick with him. Well, put him down there, but I think I and Carl have a wee eye on. And I, as in me,
yes.
and Carl will have an eye, as in my eyeball, on getting back up to essential.
Well done. It's hard to assess that one because he has barely played, but he is one of those guys who I do look for as being on the team sheet. I do think Celtic are a lot better with him in there, so I think he's much, much better than Jens. I don't know about Kobayashi, as you've already said. Impossible to judge that so far. So when you look at the state of the squad, I think he's still an essential player to Celtic, but however, if we frame it the other way, if we say if it's purely about his performance this season, it's very difficult to have anything to work with there because he's missed a huge chunk of it. I don't think he played any Champions League games. I think he's only just recently come back. As we record this, that's about in December, but as we record this now, he's just about come back and started playing again. So as contributing, I think he's just been all right this season, but that's because he's been injured and hasn't had the chance to do anything else. But again, it's one of those ones that just sits right in the middle of how do we actually break this down as a guy like Starfelt. He is an essential part of the team for me, but he hasn't been this season, if that makes any sense at all.
It's like it's not our fault he's been injured, and we're grading him on the contribution so far, and that's when we come to
not our fault, not his fault, is it?
It's nobody's fault.
Deal with it.
Yeah, and that's when we come to Abildgaard.
Well,
part of this is, to me, like a mystery signing, right? But part of me is also saying, well, it's very clearly quite an obvious signing insofar as we'd had business with Ruben Kazan. There's obviously a connection there of some sort. Special dispensation was given to players from Russia. Dudu Kazan. Special compensation was given to players to leave for a year or whatever, like defer their contracts because of the war in Ukraine and all that. And his agent, has obviously said to Celtic, look, we're trying to get this guy out of Russia. Can you do us a solid? And part of me is also looking at it going, well, Ange spoke very highly of him when he first joined. He scouted very well. He was picked out for a number of positions that he can play. Ange spoke about the qualities that he brings to his team, spoke about his height, spoke about all these things that he brings to the team, and he's no playing. So part of me is like, is he just not applying himself? Has he just seen this as an opportunity to get out of Russia for a while because of everything that's going on, play some football in Europe, and then he's just basically wiping his slate clean for this year, and then he goes on and makes decisions next year? I think I might be right in saying his contract actually ends at the end of this season as well, so I think he might be a free agent.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, come the end of this year. I'm sure I read that. So
I thought he was going back there, regardless. Well,
maybe
chance to go back there.
Well, he might have the chance, but it brings me around to: is he the first player on Last Chance Saloon?
I think so, because it's a loan. Like
is it Good Night, Sweet Prince? Is he gone? Is it basically pointless? Has his contribution thus far been non-existent and pointless? How can we possibly grade him above Scott Bain?
It's weird because some of these tiers that we've set for ourselves, no one forced them on us, and some of them are literally about the past, and Last Chance Saloon is literally about projecting forward. It makes no sense, but hey, it's entertainment. Let's roll with it anyway.
Yeah, it makes what we're trying to do is judge, like, based on what we thought they would be. So we have to stick, as you see, we've forced ourselves into this conundrum here, but we don't need to, because it's not last chance saloon. His contribution so far has been abject. It is non-existent, and it's good night, sweet prince. And if there wasn't a war in Russia, we'd be sending him home in January, I think.
I was going to say good night, sweet prince, because we've got another 6 months of him. But look, he's been here. He's not contributed at all. He's came in very late on, which is always difficult. He came into a very good team with very good players. Even when Cal McGregor comes out injured and you think, right, the obvious replacement is going to be Abelgard, he's not played there. So I think it is a good night, sweet prince, myself for grading him on his performances. Barely seen him enough to judge him. And if you're asking me, look, he's a loan player, you've got a chance to buy him. Do you want him? Nah, so it's...
I suppose, like, last chance saloon, Stephen, it can be a judgment of the past. The more I think about it, if you're sat down with your teacher, your maths teacher, and they went, "Oh, how have I got on this semester so far?" And he went, "You need to buck up your ideas. You're on last chance saloon."
Yeah, that's very true.
Then you kind of know where you're at. But I just think there's no bucking up of the ideas for any of the players that we've said goodbye to, because I don't see a pathway for him into this team at all now.
No, it's such an odd signing as well, because when you think back to just before we signed Abelgard, everyone was crying out for the big, tall, physical midfielder, and we thought at the time,
he was under our noses the whole time.
Yeah, we don't really need something like that. I can't really see where this fits into the team. And then Ange goes out and brings one in, making a mug out of us and everything we'd said, and then doesn't play him. So he's playing every day, Ange here.
No, we were right.
Yeah, well,
because we said we didn't need that.
Exactly.
So we knew better than Ange about the way Ange wants to play.
Of course. So it's just an odd signing overall. I fully expected him to have played an awful lot more than he has. So I would be tempted to just say last chance saloon, because the season isn't over. He might contribute, but I kind of see it. The thing is, though, again, look at the situation. McGregor comes out of the team, so you think, well, Abelgard, surely that's what he's been brought in to play, and he hasn't played at all. Matt O'Reilly has there, so when McGregor comes back into the team, I don't see what changes for him. So it really is probably good night, sweet prince.
'Tis the season for clean balls.
Fa la 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 la.
Right. But our friends at Manscaped are helping you clear your driveway for safe travels this holiday season. From stocking stuffers to gift exchanges, Manscaped's products are the top of every wish list. Grab some crop mops for your pops or the shampoo for your boo. Be the star of gifting season and help all the men in your life go from eggnog to nice hog this December by going to manscaped.com and using code TIMS for 20% plus free shipping.
Manscaped offers a handful of the liquid formulations, shampoos, body washes, upstairs and downstairs deodorant, gels, exfoliants, absolutely everything they could need to keep it clean. And why not top off the stocking with the crown jewel for their family jewels, the Lawnmower 4.0. The electric razor's advanced skin-safe technology is a life-changer and known for reducing nicks and cuts on his Santa sack. It's just a ball sack trimmer from your podcast mate, Sammy.
That's right, get 20% off and free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code TIMS. Manscaped, for a perfect gift that will be the holiday's biggest hit. And that brings us to 20 Tim's Player of the Year winner last year, an all-round elite footballer, Cameron Carter-Vickers. How's he got on this season?
No spoilers.
Yeah. How's he got on this season so far?
Well, again, he was one who has been missing, but when he comes back in, you realise just how good a player he is. Dead easy again. I'm not going to debate over much of it. Like, he's still firmly elite for me. He's one of the. Again, if you boil the squad down to the 3 or 4 players that you just desperately want to see in the Celtic team, the ones you can't really see as being able to go without for any length of time. Again, with the admission that I'd said earlier, we're going to win most of the games anyway, not to be complacent, but Cameron Carter-Vickers is 100% in there, holds that defence together. It doesn't really seem to matter who his partner is as well, because Starfelt, I think, is the best of the partners, but Carter-Vickers has this unique ability to kind of elevate everyone around about him. When he's not in there, see when it's Jens in Starfelt or Jens in Welsh or Welsh in Starfelt, all feels a wee bit creaky, but no such fears when Cameron Carter-Vickers is in there.
He's been a rock this season. I'm trying to think of a game so far that I've seen him flustered. He just breezes through everything, even Champions League against Real Madrid, he struggled a wee bit, but apart from that, man, I mean, European champions, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think he stays in there. Celtic have lost one league game and he wasn't playing in it. Tells its own story. I think the Champions League the group changed when him and Cal McGregor went out the team. So yeah, elite for me all day long.
Yeah, Hatate we thought would be essential. This is Melly makes the noise of uncertainty there, because this is a player whose performances this season so far have been standout, Martin Melly.
They have, and he is really, really pushing me here for elite status. Oh, I think he's been great. I think he's a pleasure to watch. I love watching him play. I'm going to have to make a push for him to get moved up to elite.
You're not going to get much argument from me.
Oh, the temperature's rising in here now. Do you know what? A real, again, much like Greg Taylor, even in fact, well beyond Greg Taylor, a very, very strong case to be made him for being elite. Again,
I mean, so can you put Taylor up if he's well beyond it then?
It's the same logic applies here, though. It's like you're talking about players of the year, potential players of the year. Hatate is unquestionably in there as well. I think he's been superb this season. And we're no longer talking about him in those terms about how, sometimes he gives the ball away. That is kind of dissipated. That doesn't come up anymore because he's just been so good. At the heart of basically everything Celtic do well. So for those reasons, I think he has to be. I think he has to be elite.
I mean, he's been brilliant. I mean, talking about Carter Vickers in the Real Madrid game, you can talk about Hatate. Did not look out of place at all. No. He's not looked out of place against any opposition. I think he's been one of my favourite players to watch this season. He's definitely, his performance is elite. That's what I would write on his report card so far. Stephen Welsh is next, though. Definitely not elite for Stephen Welsh. Definitely not essential. Does he need to buck up his ideas, or he finds himself in last chance saloon? Or Stephen, is this a player, with the incomings, and is it a player who you look and go, you're probably out the door, son, based on what you've done so far?
Well, has he, in fact, now, again, with us not having seen Kobayashi, but we assume he's been brought to the club for a reason. Obviously, there's an inherent risk in any signing, but we assume he's been brought in because he's a good player. So has Stephen Welsh now just been nudged into, through no fault of his own, has he been nudged into last chance saloon? Is it? Has he got the rest of the season to prove himself why he should still be at Celtic?
There's no nudging. It's in isolation. Does he need to buck up his ideas? He finds himself in last chance saloon based on his performances so far this season. And I think he does, Melly. I think he does. I mean, what could you point to? If you were sitting at the end of the season and someone goes, right, we need to trim some fat for the wage budget here. There's just nothing I can see. I couldn't go and, not even the end of the season, January window, you need to make space for new signings. You can get rid of whoever you want. He wouldn't be one of the first names out the door, but you're looking at it going, there's nothing I can really hang my hat on.
No, I think...
He's had a few shaky performances as well. He's not really improved in the way that you would want him to when he first made his breakthrough.
No, but with Celtic, look, we can't have this 4 top centre-halves, can we? So I think Stephen Welsh... He ticks a lot of boxes.
Forget everyone else. You're judging Stephen Welsh on how he's done so far this season. I don't care about Kobayashi. I don't care about Carter Vickers. The boy has done nothing for me. Nothing.
Okay, and now I'm going to give my opinion.
Okay, right, if you must.
So he was in Can Contribute.
Right.
I think he is in Last Chance Saloon, but come the end of the season, I still expect him to be there. Probably don't expect Jens to be there, but so I think Welsh has got certain things that go his way. Trimming fat from the wage bill doesn't make any difference for me because I don't think he'll be one of the lowest earners at the club. I think he'll still be there. I think he is in last chance saloon for his career, but I think he'll still be at Celtic.
Yeah, he needs to buck up his ideas. I think he needs to make an impression. One player who certainly has made an impression, though, Joe Hart. There was a lot of talk about Joe Hart when he first came to Celtic. We've had the discussion. Last season we thought he was going to be an essential. He wasn't elite. I believe there might have been some discussion about where he was, but at the beginning of the season we thought he was going to be essential. Has he proven to be essential? How's he got on so far? Is he an essential part of the squad, Stephen, or is he just contributing? How do you think he's done so far? Is there any... A lot of people have said about Joe Hart, he's not had the Joe Hart game. There's no... And every Celtic keeper sort of has that game, don't they, that you can go, that's the game. And Joe Hart's not had the Joe Hart game yet, has he? He's not had the Fraser Forster, he's not had this season or last season that game we can go. I mean, there was times last season, I suppose, where there's a couple of saves in the Rangers games where he probably kept us in it.
Yeah.
But this season so far, I feel like we're reaching the end of Joe Hart's essentialness.
I'm sure there was a very, very important save last season in the one each draw with Rangers at Celtic Park.
I can't low down one.
Yeah,
to his left, I think, as well.
Yeah, he said loads of great saves. Even this season, I think in the Champions League, he may have appeared a little bit ropey in other aspects. maybe a little bit slower off his line, a little bit more reluctant to come for crosses, all those things which are all part of a goalkeeping performance.
See, the last time we called him slow.
Yeah.
Right? The very next day on Instinct, we called him slow and old looking on a podcast, genuinely, right? On the flagship, we said he's starting to look a bit old, he's starting to look a bit slow. The very next day, his Instagram story, he put getting the old body moving in the sun or something like that. And I'm like, that can't be a coincidence.
Oh, come on.
It can't be a
Stop
coincidence.
making out that Celtic players watch us.
He's obsessed. He's upset, Joe. If you like us, sign up to the Patreon. Right. So just the reason I say that is to say he might be listening.
Yeah, right. We better tone it down a bit.
Mr. Hart.
Sorry, Joe.
Mr. Hart might be listening.
Again, he has made big saves, which you would expect him to do. Right. That's what he does. He's a shot-stopping goalkeeper. Always has been throughout his career. However, he has been a little bit shaky at points this season. I think he might be still essential because he's the best goalkeeper we've got by a country mile. He's still a very, very useful and important presence around the team and the squad and just generally just the club. However, I think he might just be trickling down towards... I don't think Joe Hart's ever going to be contributing for Celtic because it will be first choice gone, probably. Yes. He'll be gone down. He'll go and get $80,000 a week being third choice for Aston Villa or something like that, right? That's probably
that homegrown box.
And I wouldn't grudge him it. So all the best with that. But I think he is still essential. However, maybe edging towards the end days for Joe Hart.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. I think he stays an essential, but come the end of the season, I think it might be time to ride off into the sunset, Joe. And I think that is the only thing. I think we're going to look back on Joe Hart and go, do you know what? Came in, hopefully won 2 leagues, played in the Champions League for us, done everything. I'm just looking for that one maybe game against Rangers where we think that was the one. But the thing with this Celtic team is that teams don't get a lot of chances against us, so he doesn't have many opportunities to make a lot of big saves or get those. Celtic are rarely backs against the walls, are they? They're barely on the ropes. So, essential, but I think come the end of the season, he'll be gone.
It's a very good point because, Joe Hart is no sitting there going, I hope the defence have a shocker so I can really show everyone what I'm made of here.
I've often maintained that. See this, we really want to have him to have an outstanding performance. No, we don't. No, we don't at all because they're awful. Remember that bloody Fraser Foster game? As much as we keep romantically looking back to it and how wonderful he was, it was terrible.
Still, I think the most I've ever won in a cup. And what was the final score of that game?
1-0 Julian.
I think that was my 1-0 and Julian to score first or something, winning 400 odd quid was the only.
That must have been dicey. Watching that game for that coupon.
Another player who wasn't here to be judged at the beginning of the season, but I think we know where he's going. It's Jota.
Oh, he's elite for me. Absolutely elite. I think if we had graded him at the time, because it was pretty much certain he was signing, but he hadn't officially signed, I can't imagine Celtic without him now. Yes, he misses games here and there, but when he comes back, you remember what a player this guy is. So entertaining to watch. One of these guys that I think in 5-10 years' time I'll be going, do you know what, see if I pick a Celtic 11, I might stick him in there because I just love watching the guy.
Bad haircuts 11.
Oh,
straight in.
But just the skill, the flair, everything he's got, he contributes all the time.
Better than Paddy Roberts?
Yeah.
No, there you go. Got off Paddy now, have you?
Jota has been sensational. What a player he is. He just adds so much to this team, and we're now teetering on the brink of completely torpedoing the jeopardy involved in our tier system here. But it's Christmas. We're handing out elite placings left and right, willy-nilly now.
I was about to say, he's definitely elite in a way that Greg Taylor isn't, because Greg Taylor's like the teacher's pet. That's basically what Greg Taylor is in this scenario. But Jota is just one of the best players that we've had at the club in a very long time.
Yes.
We're discussing elite players. We thought my Dyson Maeda would be elite. And Steven Sniggers, Melly's bringing up old shit again. Settling old scores. Well, since you why don't you refresh the listeners, Melly, of your position on Maeda before we convinced you otherwise at the beginning of the season? How did you think he would be, and what do you think so far?
I thought he was essential because he was playing at the time. It was him and Jota on either side, but you guys really made a push for him to be elite. And while I thought, I just thought if we bring in another wide player, he's the first one to go. And I think you take out a Badam and put instead of Maeda, do Celtic lose a lot, maybe pressing, but I just thought he was essential. And even now, looking at essential. I'm maybe thinking can contribute. I'm looking contributing. Sorry, I think he is a good player. I think he's had a bad run of form, but he spoke recently about working a lot with Harry Kewell and how it's helped his game and how he's doing that. So I think
anything, he's worse than he was last season. keep him away from Harry Kewell. I don't know what Harry Kewell's teaching him, but he's not teaching me a better winger.
So I'm gonna. Can we put somebody down 2 levels to?
Andrew's shouting for the other side of the train. Kewell, fucking keep away from him. Fuck's sake, filling his head with pish all day.
Kewell.
That's what he calls him.
Hazza. He's also as well, but he's at the World Cup and Kewell goes, no.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. That to be fair, as we record this, we try not to be too contemporaneous on these things as we're discussing current events. But, we questioned, why is he going? Why is Kyogo not going? Japan have played one game, they beat Germany. Maybe the Japanese manager knows a thing or two.
They might have just about won it by the time this comes out. So we'll see. We'll edit this back in. The full context on Maeda, he could be the biggest faller here. He could be tumbling down the tiers here. But the context on it was that Jota hadn't signed yet, so Jota wasn't included in that squad list that we did, the squad assessment at the start of the season. He hadn't officially signed, so we left him out entirely. So that kind of elevated Maeda, and Melly's right. If Jota comes into that, he does kind of tumble down a little bit. However, the point that we drove at on that was that he was such a huge component in the way Ange plays, that defending from the front. Everyone talks about the amount of chances Celtic create and all that, and the amount of chances that Kyogo or Giakoumakis might miss. But the reason we create so many chances is because of guys like Dyson Maeda. Jota as well is good at it, but Greg Taylor, guys who win the ball far high up the pitch, right? So that was the kind of the thinking on Maeda. It wasn't elite in terms of his overall ability, just as a footballer. It was what he brought to that team. But you're right, things have changed since then. Jota has signed, Haksabanovic has signed as well. Maeda hasn't had the greatest of seasons. He's been back on a little bit of form recently as we're in the break just now. But I think he does tumble down. It's quite sadly tumble down to contributing, because I think he's no more than that just now. I don't think he gets into essential because there are a number of wingers probably ahead of him in terms of what they bring. So I think it's contributing.
Can't disagree. 9 players left to go.
Ooh.
James Forrest. Last chance saloon.
Oh, really? Is that
for
what
James Forrest? Yeah. We put him in at the beginning of the season, even though we put him in there in the full knowledge that he'd signed a new contract.
That's right.
Yeah.
However, is he contributing? Especially recently. He's come on, played some games, scored some goals. How much more can you really expect from him? Or does he need to buck up his ideas because he's not playing enough? This is James Forrest is a bit of a conundrum. If he was sat in front of you, you need to buck up your ideas. Your last chance saloon here. We gave you that new contract and you've not earned it. Or are you saying, look, we gave you that new contract. We knew you'd be third, fourth choice. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for doing what you needed to do. When you were called upon, you came in and played quite well. Found himself picked ahead of Abada on a few occasions. And we've said on flagship podcasts that he's better than Abada. We've all said it. We've said he's a better footballer than Abada. Whether that weighs into whether you think he should be doing more, contributing more is up to you. So I'll go with Stephen. James Forrest.
A surprise package for a couple of games there. Obviously, exploding.
Key words there, a couple of games.
Well, exploding back onto the scene with that hat trick and another headed goal shortly after that. He'd scored in 2 games in quick succession. That's kind of it, isn't it? I think that's kind of it. That's all he's done. So as much as I acknowledge that those are big moments, those are huge moments that we've had, I think it's just, I don't think it's, I would say,
Are we being patronising? Because so if you look at the James Forrest contract, right, and you look at that as going a sort of reward for service, the gold Rolex at the end of your career, right? That's kind of patronising, isn't it? At the end of the day, we've given James Forrest a contract because we want him to contribute. Yeah. And so far, his contribution has been a handful of games and a couple of goals. And he's there just like, I don't think I know Ange has got sympathies towards James Forrest, thinks he's a good communicator, thinks he gets his ideas across, thinks he's good in the dressing room. But as fans, as independent adjudicators of James Forrest's contribution so far in the season, Melly, does he remain in last chance saloon? You as a fan saying, I want to see more for you because Abada's not really doing it, James. You need to step up.
Personally, I want to see more from him. I think, again, like last season, we had a goal against St Johnstone and we had a goal against Livingston. That's not enough for me. That's why he was in last chance saloon. But personally, I probably would have put him in Good Night Sweet Prince if he hadn't got that contract at the end of the season. He's now in last chance. Well, he was in last chance saloon. He's contributing for James Forrest. Not enough for me. Still last chance saloon.
Not
for
enough
me.
to get himself up the rankings.
I love how we talk about these tiers as if they're like proper Celtic canon, as if like
Andrew's got them up in the wall.
Yeah, I know. Well, we did make that joke at the beginning of the last one that we're using the official internal Celtic rating
That's
system.
Right. I don't think he moves. I think all I feel they need to do here is acknowledge that he's done all right in a couple of games this season, and then just say, well, keep up the good work again.
Keep up the all right work.
Yeah, keep up the all right work every once.
Still here. As you pass him, like, oh, you're still here,
One of these days, they're just going to turn off his wee key card. He's just going to be standing at Lennox and try to tap in. We've just turned it off. He's still last chance saloon. That sounds incredibly harsh, but I think where
How
else?
long's the
Where else
contract?
would him? Another 2 after this season.
Wow.
I know.
Jeez, wow.
Staggering.
Jenk Andrew's got like the board in his office, and Jamesy comes in and says, "What to play more?" He's like, "I'll put you down one. I'll move you down one if any more you're cheating."
Next up, Moritz Jens. And let me just tell you, that boy's in last chance saloon for me, Jeff.
I suppose he is. It's a loan move. If you right now we know
I
Kobe.
wouldn't spend a penny on him. Not one bean.
Kobayashi's
one
in.
thin dime, as Fergus McCann once said.
No, I would not.
Kobayashi's in a 5-year deal. Carter Vickers is firmly number one. I'd say Starfelt, Kobayashi probably coming in. Yeah, I think if we're having 4 centre halves next year season, and I'm looking at the ones we've got, Jens is the one for me to go.
But remember, just based on what he's done so far, based on what he's done so far, I don't see enough to merit keeping him about after his loan.
I think he's in last chance saloon because he's got 6 months to prove that Celtic need to go out and pay 3-4 million for him. Right now I'm saying no. Can he do anything in that time to convince me? Unless he goes in a really good run of form, possibly not. I would say he's contributing, but because of his situation, I'd say he's in last chance saloon.
He's just a Christopher Julian that Ange gets along with. Probably. I don't think he's any improvement in Julian. He's come in, he's done okay, but again, I just don't. There's nothing that I've seen so far. God, we need to sign that guy.
I think he's been all right. I think he's been very decent. I think I can't really go past decent. I think he's been all right. I think in a vacuum, I think if you strip away some factors, I think you probably keep him over Welsh. If wages and things like homegrown talent and all that weren't a factor, and they're roughly about the same age anyway. I think you probably
computer game you go. He's a better player.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you give him the choice, I would probably keep Jens over Welsh. Not that I think Welsh is a bad player at all. I just think going forward, I think Jens is. Well, he's played a lot more than Welsh this season off the top of my head. So I think if that was the case, you probably would keep him and get rid of Welsh. But for all the reasons we've said about Welsh as well, he just makes an awful lot more sense to keep over Jens. So he's I would say last chance saloon, but I wouldn't shed many tears, to be honest, if he was just to go. He would probably just go down as one of those loan players we had and kind of forgot about later down the line. Guemo,
Moritz Bauer. There you go. Last chance saloon for Moritz Jens. Next up, David Turnbull, a player that we've spoken a lot about this season on Flagship Podcast. We said he would be essential this season. Stephen, looking back on David Turnbull's contribution, do you think he's been essential? No, I don't think we can keep him in that bracket. That's interesting, the note that we said he was going to be essential this season. Then it just shows you how highly we rated him at the time, because we've been accused of
Rogic was leaving, to be fair.
Of course, yeah, that's right. So we've been accused of not rating David Turnbull, but there it is. Check the record, bud. It's there in black and white. So he was essential. That's interesting. I'd probably like to go back and listen to that again. Impossible to put him there. Just hasn't played enough. I think he has been. Look at how this is shaping up as well. We've got 2 guys in that midfield who have elevated to elite so far. I think that's what's done for David Turnbull's contribution. He's always on the verge of getting kind of wee niggly injuries here and there anyway. He has been decent. A couple of big goals. He scored the hilarious one against Rangers, so he deserves a gold star for that, of course. Other than that, I think he got that goal quite recently, and that's it for the season. So impossible to put him in essential. I think he's a firm contributing for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
bang on, Stephen. I can't argue with that in the slightest.
No, I can't argue with that either.
Yeah.
Well done, Stephen. round of
Thank
applause
you.
round of applause for Stephen.
Well done for
Well-
not making us talk.
Well, pause if you're just give the listeners and viewers a chance to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh,
There we go.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Essential. That's what we thought Juranovic would be, Martin Melly.
Well, I still kind of agree with that. I think if there was no transfer speculation around him, I think we'd still keep him in that bracket. But rumours that he will be leaving in January, Celtic have already got a sort of replacement, or he will be leaving at some point. I still think he's a good player. I still think he is essential to the way we play, because if it's a straight shootout between him and Ralston, Juranovic wins 9 times out of 10, doesn't he? So, yeah, essential. But look, mate, we're looking for a wee bit better from you.
So, report card is you've been essential to us so far. Josip Juranovic, you have been essential to the way that I want to play, but
Yeah,
I've
well,
got one eye on you.
if it's a straight shootout between the two and 9 times out of 10 Juranovic wins, that means about 6 times a season Tony Ralston blows his brains out, blows his brains clean out. So, yeah, I've been
Because
a
you've
little
previously
bit.
said on podcasts that there's really no difference between the two in terms of ability.
Well, I
no,
think
no.
yeah, I think Juranovic's ceiling's significantly
What did
higher
you,
than
you've said
Ralston.
something along those lines.
Well, I just don't think
Was
we-
it that you don't think Celtic suffer too much
Yeah.
No,
with
yeah.
one or the other? That's
I think,
what you said.
I think that's exactly it. I think that's one of the, as much as I've said already on this, that it takes some going for Celtic to lose one player out of the team and just for everything to totally collapse. There are degrees within that. There are sort of different levels, and I think that Juranovic down to Ralston isn't that strongly felt. Really, I don't think there's that much of a difference to how Celtic play. I think Juranovic is really great at carrying the ball forward, but I think his final ball and his defending have been disappointing this season. I think he can be a bit of a ball watcher. I think he can be.
In Europe,
I think he can be caught out, going back the way. I think he's not the most aware. I would expect more of a 27-year-old player who's about to, presumably, as we record this again, move on to a higher level. Then we don't know where he's going to end up.
Good
but
night, sweet prince. I'm Stephen. You sound like you're about it.
the rumours are strong that he's about to leave. So, he's contributing because, I mean, again, on paper he is an essential member of the team, but I've been disappointed with him this season. I don't think he's been bad at all. I wanted more from him, because I remember last season where I was looking at Juranovic and thinking I was getting carried away and saying he's going to be one of the best fullbacks we've had in the modern era, but I just don't think that's happened for him.
Jamie, I think we've had players going up and down, with players going up and down. The first for me, but he's charmed me.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's charmed me as well. Steve's doing a no bad job so far, because I think I think Juranovic is contributing. I think he's not elite. That's the conversation's not there about Juranovic having an elite season so far. You're looking at him and going, is he essential? And based on what you've said and what we've thought in the past, well, no, because if he's out and Ralston fills in, there's no much there. Do you know what I mean? So no, I think he's contributing. I think he's definitely contributing so far. A bit of a surprise package next. Aaron Moy.
Right.
Never get graded last
New
time.
entry, of course. New entry.
Yeah, remember the charts? You know, like the charts. New entry at number whatever. Aaron Moy. I've got to admit, when the guy came, I was like, what is this? What is Aaron Moy going to offer?
Aaron Meh.
Aaron Meh is what I thought he was going to offer. He's been he's really, his trajectory has been really like that for me. And I know he said recently in an interview it's taken him a while to get fit. And I think now that he's fit, he's not essential. I think that's silly.
No.
Yeah.
However, if he was here at the beginning of the season, I would say last chance saloon. That's where I would have put him, because I'm like, he's 30 odds, he's comfy giant. What the point? But he's definitely contributing now. He's top quartile of contributors as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he's probably in that Tony Ralston bracket of contributing, isn't he? He's done well. I think it's only the St Mirren game that we thought, hey, hold on a minute, that wasn't very good. I think he's probably exceeded expectations for me as well. And look, he does look painfully slow, but everything else about his game's great, so that makes up for it. We didn't expect him to come in and be able to play in this Ange team as a sort of forward-thinking midfielder, but the passes he can pick out, the wee dinks round the corner, I think he's exceeded expectation, and he's definitely contributing.
Yeah, I think so. I think he is contributor here, or contributing, and I think I'm pronouncing that differently each time I say it now as well. I think the context of that, though, is that's fine. That's fine for Adam Moy. I think if you say he's contributing to this team, I think you're right, Jamie. If we'd been there since the start of the season, we'd now be looking at promoting him into a tier now.
Yeah.
We've had a few tumble down. We've had a few promotions in here, but I think we'd be elevating him from one of the lower tiers into contributing, and I think that would be. Yeah, again, it sounds dead patronising from an established international, player of pretty high repute. But I think that's basically what he's done. I think he's exceeded expectations, but it's not been like mind blowing. I don't think it's essential or anything like that. So contributing.
Anna Moy's been contributing. It sounds so bland, but we're just trying as best we can tie it back into the original prediction somewhat. Next up is Leal Abada, who we thought could contribute this season, and I think he deserves more than that.
No, I'm sticking with contributing. I think he's got goals against Rangers. Bar that, I don't think he's got much. And look, if Abada plays, it's fine if Jota's on the other side, but if, as we've seen in games, if it's him and Maeda and somebody not creative, I still want a lot more from him. He's one of these guys who, if Celtic could get a good offer for him, I think we should really take it, because yes, he does bring goals, but doesn't bring much more for me, and that's in Scotland. So
what's a good offer?
Over 10 million.
Oh, yeah, I set you up there brilliantly for that Stephen Gerrard. Remember Stephen Gerrard? That's the reporter. What's a good offer? And the guy goes, don't know, 7 figures. Gerrard goes, what, £1 million?
Also, an overlooked aspect of that bizarre interview is that when he was asked about what kind of offer he would accept, he then said, "Oh, you tell me, you're the one that's asking." Fundamentally not how questions work. That's not how questions work, Gerrard.
7 figures? What, £1 million? Oh my God, we lost the league to an absolute dunce. Right, okay.
Oh, never forget.
No, Leal Abada.
Leal Abada has... he's a tricky one. He's actually quite a tricky one, because he has contributed massively, and he always does. However, I just can't put him in essential.
No,
I can't, because I don't think he is. I don't. Like, if you're saying essential is the team that you want to see playing, and you can't imagine, again, all the things we've already said, but it's always going to be Jota and Haksabanovic for those two positions. Maeda has already come a cropper, has already tumbled down those tiers as a result of that. I don't think Abada is anything as dramatic, but that's only because we overdid it with Maeda, clearly. Abada, I think we've been right so far. I think we've kind of nailed it, and they can contribute. And
well done us.
Yeah, I think so. I think contributing is exactly what he's done. Again, I don't want that bland title, but I think that's good. I think that's a good thing that he has done that, because he's still getting better. But he hasn't, so far this season, he hasn't had the dip that he did last season. He's just been consistently kind of going about his job. So yeah, contributing for me.
Final 3.
Oh.
Did we get that quote wrong as well? Was it not 8 figures and Gerrard said, what, £1 million?
Oh, it doesn't matter. We got a laugh out of it anyway. Final 3.
Oh, I know the 2 that are coming.
Yeah. Scott Robertson.
Oh, that was the one.
That's the player. You don't want to be unkind. However, I think that's the player Neil Lennon brought back from loan, wasn't it? An emergency loan, brought him back.
Yeah.
Or in an emergency, cancelled his loan, brought him back, didn't play him, and then sent him back on loan. We put him in last chance saloon, to be perfectly fair, and I mean,
good night, sweet prince.
Good night, sweet prince. Basically, he's not done a thing, man. I don't even think he's came off the bench. Has he?
No, I don't. I would imagine he'd barely been in a squad from memory. I forgot he was there. If I'm totally honest,
on loan.
It could well be.
No, is he there?
Yeah, I think he's still part of the squad.
We do a research,
yeah. Well, what I liked, see when he came back from that loan, I liked the way he was talking when he came back, and he was back involved with the first team squad. He was talking about how he believed he was good enough, and you should do that. You should completely back yourself. No point in being at Celtic if you don't think that you are, if not better, right? That might be a bit too strong, but you deserve to be in training with Hatate, with O'Reilly, with McGregor. If you don't think you belong at that, in that session, that training session, then quite frankly, good night, sweet prince.
That is one component of it.
Yeah, so I liked that he's a confident young guy but nothing's changed for him at all. And if anything, in fact, I take that back, things have changed for him, because he might still be as good a player as he ever was that got him to this level at Celtic, but we keep adding midfielders that are really, really good, quite frankly. So things have changed for him in that he just can't get near the team, and he just seems to be getting further and further away from it. So
and older, he's got to play, isn't he?
Yeah,
exactly. He's getting to that age where you have to be establishing yourself somewhere. Quite often players will get to just knocking on the door of the Celtic first team, and then they go and make decent careers for
I think
elsewhere.
the last couple of minutes of what you said is probably not a million miles off what Ange will be saying to him.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the right attitude, you're trying hard, but there's just too many players ahead of you. You're at that age where you need to go and play. And if you look through football, Celtic have sent many players on their way who've went to have fantastic careers. And that's basically the talk you would be giving them. And
I don't particularly want another loan for him either, because you find that you've got players who are around for years, and you take a look at their Wikipedia page, right? The wee sidebar, and all of a sudden you've got like 4 or 5 loans racking up, and nothing's ever really changed for you. So I don't really want that for him either. I'd prefer, ultimately, I'd prefer him to be at Celtic, because I think he's a good player. I've liked what I've seen, very little I've seen of him, but I think for the good of his career, I think it's good night, sweet prince.
Because the loans, you really only want to be sent on loan for one of 2 reasons at Celtic. One, you are an older player on higher wages that nobody else wants to pick up the wage packet like a Yeti, so we have to get you on loan or Barkas. Or 2, you're a young player who needs to improve slightly. What you don't want to be is the middle ground player who's not playing, who's not young, who's not old and on big wages, and we're just putting you on loan because basically you don't want to sit about. 2 players left.
Oh, I think there might be 3, James.
Who have I forgotten?
Well, I need to know what 2 we've got here.
Oh, right. Do you 2 remember just not 5 minutes ago when I said there was 3 players left?
Yeah.
Missed one.
And I said, Scott, I missed one.
Right.
I missed James McCarthy.
Tells its own story.
They might tell us. I might tell
This
us
is
story.
a new category, the forgotten man.
Yeah, James McCarthy. I mean, we could say he's contributed.
No.
He was in Last Chance Saloon.
Do you remember that time he did come in and play quite well, and we were all like, "Oh, see, James McCarthy, he's still around, he's still here, he's fighting."
Because he had that touch to Bernabe.
That's right. That's right.
Giacomacus goal.
That's right. So nothing since then. He's injured again now. Again, as we sit here in December, as this goes out, it's done for him.
Kiss the sky.
It's totally done for him. It's a good night, sweet prince, with regret. But again, we could be sitting here. We could do this for the next 3 seasons, because he'll still be here. And we could be doing this for the next 3 seasons, and I'll still be saying the exact same things. I'll still be saying, do you know what? There was a player in there once upon a time. It's just a case of getting out of him. And by that time, we'll be 34 or something like that, and he's barely played a game. So I don't know where he goes, but for the good of his, what remains of his career, he should be at, like, I don't know, go to Preston North End or something like that and go and play quite Derby County. So one of these teams would gladly take James McCarthy and actually make a use of him. So, good night, sweet prince.
Get yourself to America, Jamesy.
That's a good shout.
America. I think he's going to be one of those players I'll always look back on and go, I was choking for you to be good. It's just not worked out. It's not happened for him. So, good night, sweet prince, but I'll always love you.
2 players left. Good night, sweet prince. McCarthy. Kyogo.
Oh, see, this is when I think it.
Yeah.
Dropping down a section.
Oh, you think so? You don't think Kyogo's one of the elite? I mean, how many elites? Hold on a minute. Just for the benefit of the finished product here, okay? So if Kyogo's not elite, the elite players we've got so far are who?
O'Reilly, Hatate,
Greg Taylor,
Jota, Carter Vickers.
Right, there you go. Right, so Kyogo, he's more than essential. He's more than essential, and he needs to be.
Well, grade him on his performances this season.
Yeah, was he not scored enough goals for you or something?
While he has, I was looking. If you're elite, I'm looking for you to play in that Champions League and do it. And didn't quite do it for me. No matter how much I love him, he scored in the Champions League. I thought he'd done all right, but Kyogo missed a lot of chances that were laid on a plate for him. So I think he is an elite player, but I'm thinking if this mid-season report card, I'm going to put him as essential, because if you take Giacomacus, swap them about, I think maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I think so far essential.
Oh, I hope people have made it this far into the video / podcast for that bombshell. Kyogo sensationally axed from the elite.
I have got
think,
one eye on how many elite players we've got there. Like,
that's true. That's
personally, I
true.
wouldn't have Taylor in there, but
Right.
Well, the decision's been made, right? So stop all that.
Yeah,
Jeez,
stop undermining or
never going to hear the end of this. Next season we'll be sat here doing this again and go, do you remember last year when I said Taylor was
right, I will be.
we fixed him ahead, I think. Right, give us peace. Right, Kyogo, I think what he needs is, if we've already spoken about the Champions League, Melly's already mentioned the Champions League, that's a bit of a misfire from him. He didn't really necessarily show up all that well in that. I think he needs a goal against Rangers. Now, he's not that many opportunities to do that, because I remember he's been missing for several of them, or at least a couple of them.
Him and the Jack haven't done it.
Yeah, no. It's mainly Jota and Abada that keep scoring against them. We've not really had a striker do it against them for a while. So I think he needs one of those. And with that, it's as harsh as that may be, but you know, we have to get real here. That is a big
Tough
factor.
titties.
Yeah, that's a big factor in judging Celtic strikers.
He did get injured in that 4-0 game in the first minute, and you're like, he's going to score the day, and then that happens. It was unfortunate.
I think when I'm looking at Kyogo here, a lot of his big moments are now last season. No, I think he has been good this season. That hat trick was superb. His hat trick was incredible. But when I think back, I'm like, but that semi-final, in fact, the final against Hibs, I thought that was incredible. But that's last season, so he's essential for me.
Okay, essential. That leaves us the final.
What would you? Would you stick with Stale or Alita?
It's a tough one. I mean, I can see why you would say essential, but I think he's one of the best players in the squad, and he's been one of our best performers this season. He really has been one of our best performers this season.
We are judging him on his own standards.
And we're judging him against the performances of everyone else, and you know, has Greg Taylor been better than Kyogo this season? No.
Well, that's one of the many different factors, I suppose, isn't it? We're judging Greg Taylor on, not patronisingly, but we're judging Greg Taylor on Greg Taylor's performances for Greg Taylor. Yeah. But that doesn't cover the whole thing. I think Greg Taylor has been excellent. It's not, he's been good for him. Yeah. I think he has been brilliant. But we're also doing the same.
Greg Taylor could be a B student getting straight A's this year. Whereas Kyogo's an A student getting C's. Well, not C's, but B pluses. So
that we're kind of doing the reverse here. We're judging Kyogo by his extremely high standards, and maybe he hasn't just met those. It's like very, very harsh.
Another guy come the end of the season will probably be back up.
Yeah, I mean, just I'll do a melee here, right? I'll put him in essential, but know that I think you're both wrong.
That's right.
Okay. Callum McGregor, though, definitely not elite. Sorry, mate.
No,
not elite.
I'm sticking with elite with this one.
No, he's essential. He's essential, and he's essential because Matt O'Reilly's come in, and I don't miss Callum McGregor. Pretend Callum McGregor wasn't injured, pretend we sold him for £30 million to Leicester, I'm like, fine. Who? We've no missed him. Just like we've no missed Ayer, just like we've no missed Edouard. If we'd sold Callum McGregor and bought Matt O'Reilly, I'd be happy as Larry.
Yeah, but we didn't, and we've got both of them. So I think the two of them in the one team, incredible team, especially if you add in Hatate there. I think he's pivotal to Celtic. I think the three maybe domestic games just before the break there really showed that we do miss Callum McGregor despite...
What, the 3 games we won?
Yep, despite winning those games, Celtic weren't great in those games. So if you want to scrape through games, that's fine, but I want to win them and play well, and I don't think Celtic quite done that. So
he's been injured.
Yep, he's been injured since the start of October, and he's missed a big chunk of games because there was so many, but he plays every game he's fit for. Up until that point, he played every game for Celtic and Scotland he was available for. So I think Cal McGregor's elite, and I still think he's the best player at Celtic.
Tielemans leaves Leicester in January.
Right.
Brendan Rodgers on the phone. Callum, want down the road. Are you fuming at that?
It's a weird phone noise, that.
That's the phone Brendan Rodgers makes.
It's one of those
Take
really
the lollipop
expensive.
out his mouth, it hits his teeth. That's
So
Cal.
Only the best for Brendy, for brother Brendy. Really expensive, just clicking phones, none of this ringing nonsense. Callum, I refer you to the case of Taylor versus Burnaby 2022.
Right.
This very date, 2022. We made the case that, it was suggested that it's not big a drop off to Burnaby. So can we make Greg Taylor elite on the basis of this? So with that, then you, Jamie, have just said that kind of not really missed them that much because of
Callum
Riley.
McGregor. Just I want that on the record.
Yeah, I'm making these. Just making everyone aware of the holes in our logic here, because
there's loads of them.
There are plenty of them. We don't really need to point them out to anyone watching. However, I do overall agree that he just adds something to this team that we simply don't have elsewhere. I just think he is still a extremely important. He is the fulcrum of that midfield. We have got by and played well, but not peak Celtic for me without Callum McGregor. I think Matt O'Reilly deserves immense credit as an able deputy in there, but that's all he is. He is an able deputy. He is not the elite midfielder or in that role. We've already put O'Reilly where we've put him, so Callum McGregor's still elite for me.
Well, look, I'm not going to cause a fight over it, right? I just think that you've got favourites. You get a wee bit of favouritism there. I think Callum McGregor, he's just on the very verge, isn't right? Okay, he's elite, fine. Right, I'm not going to argue.
I don't think we can have 6 elite players, can we? We can't have 6, 7 elite players because you're.
Do you know? No, listen, he's poisoning your mind to take Greg Taylor out. Okay, that's where he's going with this. The wee snake. This is how he's like. Oh, we can't have 6. You know, one player needs to drop out. You're talking about Greg Taylor again, aren't you?
No. I'm having McGregor there, but if we're going to have maybe Kyogo in there as well, you're not having 7 elite players at Celtic, are you? That. Yeah,
we did set our own rules. I think at
did Kyogo make it?
No, but it's
just, right, okay.
If you're taking McGregor out, then I think that's.
So we're happy. Are we happy with everything? You want to? I mean, if you want any go backsies, now's the time to bring it up.
No, so we've got Taylor, Hatate, O'Reilly, Jota, and McGregor, all in Carter Vickers, all 6 players in elite.
Yes.
So that's a lot of players to have in elite.
O'Reilly, kill him. Get rid of him. O'Reilly.
You don't think he's elite?
No, I'm happy. I'm happy with him.
You happy with it? Fine, we're happy. So we have.
O'Reilly.
Stephen's making a late.
No danger he becomes in anyone's conversation for Player of the Year. Is the only thing I would say is working against him there.
He's not scored enough goals, has he?
He's not scored enough goals.
He's playing in a very deep position.
Even when he wasn't.
If you are saying O'Reilly's coming out, I'm saying Greg Taylor's coming out and all then. So it's
right. Well, do you know what? We'll let the viewers and listeners decide.
That's a good one.
Why? I've done this before.
Pass the buck. We're kind of getting away with passing the buck there.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? If you're watching this, right below in the comments, tweet us. Let us know your elite Celtic players. We want to know. We want to know where we have gone wrong. I mean, you would have told us anyway. People on the internet love to tell us where we go wrong.
Right. Well, so do we pick 6? So we have to pick 5 elite players then.
So let us know in the comments. Let us know on the Discord if you remember. Let us know on Twitter. Let us know who belongs where. You will tell us. That's what happens. Just want to say thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. That lets us create great videos like this. It gives us the opportunity and the equipment essentially to do things like this. So thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching and listening.